In Fox 5 Health News, the FDA now requires COVID vaccine makers to expand the warning about rare heart diseases and risks linked to the shots.
All right, join us now, Dr. Purvi Parikh, Clinical Assistant Professor of Infectious Diseases and Immunology at NYU Langone. She has done research with the Pfizer vaccine, by the way, worth noting. All right, walk us through what these warning labels now say and the update that the FDA is requiring.
Right. So, this is a rare side effect of both the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, myocarditis or pericarditis, which is inflammation in your heart. And currently, that label is already there. So Pfizer's vaccine says that the risk is highest in males aged 12 to 17, and Moderna says that the risk is highest in males 18 to 24. So essentially what the FDA wants is kind of to combine the two and then, label it for that risk to be from, age 12 all the way through 24. So it kind of encompasses both of their warning labels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think give us some context in terms of how rare this might be. What kind of risk are we talking about?
Right. So in the grand scheme of things, if you were to get infected with the actual COVID virus, your risk for myocarditis or pericarditis would be significantly more. And we see that significantly more, as much as twice as likely. And some studies even go so far to say 4 or 5 times as likely. So again, this is extremely rare in a very specific age group. And there's also ways to mitigate that risk. For example, by spacing out vaccine doses, sometimes they're less likely to get that inflammation. But still, for the general public, the risk is extremely low, and the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks.
Thank you all for coming. I'm going to be discussing the safety label update for myocarditis associated with mRNA COVID vaccines, which we just put forward. This came out on June 25th, 2025. The FDA approved a required updated warning, which is a class warning for all mRNA COVID-19 vaccines in conjunction with the manufacturers. I'm going to walk you through the updated warning and the basis for the warning. First of all, I'd like to thank David Kaslow and the vaccine team and Richard Forshee and the pharmacovigilance team for writing, coordinating, and deploying this safety label change. Also, I'd like to note this SLC was initiated prior to my joining the agency. And note, I'm not using the FDA branch abbreviations in the hopes that this presentation will be more accessible to the general public. The updated safety label. The updated safety label for the mRNA COVID vaccines harmonizes the age range across products and adds additional data about the adverse event of myocarditis and what we know. It's based on 2 factors. It's based first on the unadjusted crude incident rate from the 2023 to 2024 formulation, and it's also based on persistent and concerning cardiac MR findings. So this is a slide that we put together. This is the FDA analysis of the BEST system, which is an observational data system that captures myocarditis and pericarditis following immediately afterwards, the first 7 days, COVID-19 mRNA vaccination. And what you see here is that even in 2023, 2024, the last year for which we have data, you see a rate of myo and pericarditis of 8 out of 1 million in all persons in this age range. And in the highest risk demographic group, young men between the ages of 12 and 24, it's about 27 per million. Notably, the BEST data set does not allow us to disambiguate the risk by product, and as such, this is a class mRNA safety label. The second piece of evidence that is captured in the new safety label update is some concerning findings we've noted with late gadolinium enhancement. Now, late gadolinium enhancement is a radiographic abnormality seen on cardiac resonance imaging, and this is how it's been described prior to in the literature in the context of myocarditis. Patchy myocardial and focal subepicardial enhancement as an expression of potentially irreversible injury is how it's been described. The FDA notably funded a study led by Jane and colleagues in 2024, which showed among hospitalized patients with COVID-19 induced myocarditis, a high proportion, the majority, had initial late gadolinium enhancement on cardiac MR. But most concerningly, at 5 months of follow-up, 60% of these patients continued to have LGE. And our results for late gadolinium enhancement are consistent with many, many others, as I'll show you here. This was a study from Australia that followed post 6 months For post-COVID-19 vaccine-induced myocarditis, over half of the patients were still reporting symptoms, 67% had abnormal follow-up cardiac MRs, and 35% showed what was listed as evidence of fibrosis. I did a quick systematic review pulling all available publications documenting late gadolinium enhancement, and these are some takeaway summaries. 92% is occurring in men, 90% have LGE at presentation, but most concerning, 72% have persistent LGE even months thereafter, very consistent with the FDA-sponsored study.